Hi everyone, and welcome to my June rose tour. I'm super excited to show you all the roses that are blooming in our garden. If you're new to my channel, my name's Annette and we garden here in South Buckinghamshire in the UK, and we have a gorgeous walled garden. Well, I think it's gorgeous anyway. And we have loads of roses and they are looking fabulous. I think this might be the year of the rose. It was definitely the year of aphids for me, but it's also the year of the rose. They are looking fabulous, and I just hope they carry on flowering beautifully for me for the rest of the season. I am going to start here in the back garden, and then I'm going to show you the front garden where I've got loads of roses too. So we're kind of just going to do a tour of the garden, have a walk around this morning and take a look at all the roses. I'm going to put the names up on the screen, and if I've got the patience, I'll put the size that they grow to as well. Now I've got shrub roses and climbers. I don't have any ramblers planted yet, but I certainly will do in the future. We just need to find the right spot for them. Anyway, I do also want to say, if you're a subscriber to my channel, thank you so much for starters. Thank you so much for subscribing, and I'm really glad that you're enjoying the content that I'm producing here on this channel. I also want to say that if my voice is sounding a bit funny, sorry for my absence because we've been away for a bit. We have been at our daughter's wedding in California because that's where she lives, and it was amazing. We loved meeting our new family, and we had the most fantastic time. But I've come back with a sore throat, and that's thanks to my new daughter-in-law who had one, and I think I must have caught it from her. So if I'm sounding a bit husky, that's all it is. I'm fine, and I'm going to show you around the garden. We're going to start here with one of my favourites just outside the kitchen. This one is called Harlow Car, and I absolutely love it. Now I have 3 Harlow Car roses here. This is not one bush, it's 3 bushes. The scent on this rose is just incredible, and because it's right outside our kitchen, we have wafts of this gorgeous scent all through the day, and I really love it. Now I know I go on about it, but of all the roses in my garden, this is the one that I can smell the most, and it just sort of carries on the wind. Now there is a caveat to this rose because it's incredibly thorny. It's got loads and loads of spikes. I wouldn't warn you off it. I just think it's an incredible rose, but just be warned that there are spikes. And also, this year I did something that I saw Klaus Dalby doing, which was I trained some of the leaders sort of over, and in the hope of getting more flowers, and it definitely did that, but I've learnt a few lessons from doing that. Let me show you. Harlow Car is this gorgeous pink rose here, incredibly fluffy blooms. They've got quite small petals, and they're quite flat. They're not one of these ball shaped. This is a David Austin rose, and I've got it planted here with a penstemon called Arabesque Apple Blossoms. This isn't just straight apple blossom, it's Arabesque Apple Blossom. It's got quite large, creamy pink, what are they? Flowers, florets, flowers. It looks absolutely gorgeous. I've also got some foxgloves with aphids on, and we've got a gorgeous heuchera here. I can't remember what this one's called, but I really like the way the flowers on the heuchera complement the rose. So you can see that this rose throws up loads and loads of shoots. So what I did earlier in the season was I used a stake to pin down one of the long shoots, because then it would produce more flowers. It definitely has produced more flowers. So coming off this long shoot here that I pinned down, it was very similar to this tall one up here. So I pinned one of these down just using a garden stake, and then there were loads of shoots coming off it. So this is one shoot here, this is another shoot here, there's another one here with absolutely loads of roses on. They've gone over. This is another one that's come off the long stem. So it definitely did what I was hoping it would do. I've had to cut the end off it though, because it was sticking out too far. The lesson that I've learned doing this is that the stakes need to be higher, so a taller stake. This one, it's quite low, and so the roses are just they're kind of drooping a bit. So I think the stake needs to be higher up, or maybe this just wasn't the right rose to do it with. So I've got another one here. So I pinned this one down here, this whole branch. So all of these roses are coming off this one long stem here. And in fact, I can see new shoots popping up here. So once these are have finished flowering, I'm going to chop them off and then we'll have these, which will also produce flowers. So it has worked. I just wish that I'd used slightly taller stakes so that the roses were a bit higher up. So right next to these Harlow car bushes here, I've also got a rose called New Dawn. This is a climber. This is one of the first roses I ever planted in my garden, and I think I forgot to show you this rose in last year's rose tour, but it's absolutely gorgeous. And again, complemented beautifully by the heuchera, but it's just got the most delicate, pale pink roses. They're so, so pretty. This heuchera that's been in absolutely ages, I can't remember the name, I think I've said that already, but it just goes so nicely with these two roses. It's a real compliment, and I just love the way this is trailing over. And then popping over this side. So this is the view from the kitchen. We've got the Harlow car there, and then we've got New Dawn here. And I can see one that I haven't deadheaded. In fact, I can see a couple I didn't deadhead. Gosh, it's so bright in the sunshine this morning. So this is New Dawn, this is Harlow car, and then on this big rose arch behind me, this is where I've got the Generous Gardener and a rose called Claire Austin, and they are gorgeous. I think they've been in 3 years now. Let me take you over there. Here on the southern facing side, this is the Generous Gardener, this sort of pinky coloured rose, and then on the northerly side, I suppose, closer to the house, is Claire Austin, which is a more sort of creamy, very pale apricot colour. These are both David Austin climbers, and I love them. They have got gorgeous sort of ball-shaped, very cupped flowers. They're so, so pretty. Now, David Austin has a reputation for the petals falling off really easily, and they do go over and the petals fall off, but then we have like rose confetti on the ground, and I absolutely love it. I think it looks gorgeous, but look how beautifully they flower. And I've got exactly the same on this side. They're slightly lower, and that's because I think they didn't get as much, like shorter. They're shorter than the ones on this side. So this is the top on this side and here. And I think it's because this was sort of a standalone bed in the beginning, and so it didn't get as much water. There wasn't an irrigation system to this border when it first started. So they're catching up fine now. They do have an irrigation system. We're staying on top of the feeding more. We're paying more attention to this side. So they are catching up, and they will eventually catch up. But that's why there's sort of a discrepancy in the heights. Let me show you the roses close up. So this is the Generous Gardener. They're sort of deeper, more cup-shaped blooms, and they start off very pale pink and then fade to a more sort of creamy blush colour. Now, these roses are not nearly as thorny as Harlow car. They are much paler, well, they're less thorny, but I do need to keep tying them in, so everything is tied in quite rigorously. They really are the prettiest pink. And then what I've been doing is I've been sort of training some of the Claire Austin over to this side and training some of the Generous Gardener over to this side. So there's sort of a mix and match, which is why we've got some of the Claire Austin blooms over here. Claire Austin is definitely more on the creamy apricot side. There's just a tiny touch of yellow in some of the blooms. So here we're around the other side of the rose arch, and on each side I've also planted a boscobel. I just wanted like a bright pop of colour when you came around the corner, and boscobel does that. Now, boscobel is a shrub rose, and it's another David Austin, and it's absolutely gorgeous. It's sort of pink with these sort of yellowy peachy tones in it. It's really colourful. Now, most of these are actually a little bit old, but this is sort of how the blooms start over here. They start as these gorgeous little ball shapes, and then they open up to these many petalled little roses. So this is the other side of the Generous Gardener, and in here we can see the other boscobel tucked away. I mean, I just love David Austin roses so much. They're so full of petals. Absolutely gorgeous. And boscobel, when it first opens, is this really rich, vibrant colour. It's so pretty. So this bloom here, this is the Generous Gardener, and the richer, pinker colours, this is boscobel. Now, boscobel obviously is a shrub rose. It's not a climber, so it's not going to get much taller than this. If you've been following along in my channel this year, these are new borders that we've put in. Now, we planted these up about 2 weeks ago, so everything's very, very new. But I do have a rose in here that I want to show you because it's also flowering, and I'm super excited about how this is going to look in the future. So not quite halfway down this border, and I will do a full tour of the border as it starts blooming, I think, when things are looking a little bit more settled in. But this rose here is called Cornelia. It's a hybrid musk, and it's got the prettiest little flowers. They've got a real combination of sort of pink and apricot tones to it. They're very, very small flowers. The flowers themselves are quite small, but it's so pretty and so full of colour, and I'm super excited. I think it's going to grow to about 1.5 metres by 1.5 metres, which I think is about 5 foot by 5 foot. So it is going to get considerably taller, because at the moment it's sort of 1 foot by 1 foot at the moment. So the flowers, they're about an inch across, maybe 1.5 inches, some of them. But look at the combination of colours. It's sort of got the combination of pink and apricot, and I think it's so, so pretty. Absolutely loads of buds on there. And I've only just planted it this year. So this is the dahlia border on this side, and this is what we like to call the top border, because it kind of, it surrounds our patio, but it's raised up from the patio, so I just call it the top border. It doesn't mean it's special or anything, but here, right on the edge, I have got a rose called Comte de Chambord, and Comte de Chambord is the only rose from my old garden that I have in my new garden. And when I say my old garden, I'm talking about a house that we lived in years and years ago, probably about 15 years ago. And I didn't know much about gardening at that point. But Comte de Chambord I really loved, and so I planted it here as well. So Comte de Chambord is this gorgeous deep pink rose. Now, it's also quite thorny, but the spikes on Comte de Chambord they aren't quite as long and pokey as Harlow-Carr. So Harlow-Carr is quite vicious. Comte de Chambord has got quite a lot of spines, but they're kind of diddy, they're little. But it just has the prettiest blooms, and I love this pink colour. It's just pure pink, so it doesn't have any of the apricot or peachy tones. And it really flowers its socks off. Just behind it, we've got 2 obelisks in this border, and at the base of each one, I've planted a rose called Blush Noisette. Now, this rose is new to me, but I am absolutely loving it. So this one needs tying in. I've just got back, obviously I said that, from a holiday. So I haven't got round to tying everything back in yet, but this one desperately needs tying in. But look at all the blooms on this Blush Noisette. It also needs a little bit of deadheading. So I've got a lovely blue scabious that's just about to open here. That's Fama Blue. The purpley flower down at the bottom there, that's an auroch or atriplex. It's self-seeded, but I'm keeping it there. And then we've got some allium spherocephalons that are about to pop. So we've sort of got pinks and blush and purples going on. This is a Vicaria, this lovely little pink thing here. This is a Vicaria that I grew from seed, and it's been filling this space really nicely. I really like it. Don't look too closely at the orange poppy. That is a mistake. I've been sent a bare root that isn't right. They're all supposed to be Patty's Plum, this gorgeous sort of purple. So the apricot one is going to have to come out, because it's not supposed to be apricot in this border at all. It should be sort of more blues and pinks and whites. So this is Comte de Chambord and Blush Noisette. Ignore the apricot, but as we move down here, we've got one of my all-time favourites. This is Eustacia Vi, and it's so eye-catching and so delicious, and I just want to eat it. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful rose. I mean, what's not to love about the colours of this rose? So I have 3 rose bushes here. There's sort of one here, one there, and one there. And I do like to plant my roses in groups of 3, if at all possible, because I don't want just one little statement. I like there to be like a mass of colour and a mass of blooms. And I find that by planting in 3s, there's always sufficient blooms to make me happy. Eustacia Vi is going to start off with these sort of pinky apricot-y colours, and then it fades to the most gorgeous blush. So you get like a real combination of colours. It's just so pretty, and it flowers like mad. I really love it. So as we continue along this border, I've got a couple more roses. So we've got another rose here. That one is called Jacques Cartier. And then up at the end, as we get to the warmer colours, more apricotty, that one is called Chandos Beauty. Let's go and have a look at those. So this one here is Jacques Cartier. And again, it's got little spines on it and really tight clusters. Like, look how closely those buds are up against the flower. So really tight clusters of flowers. So, so pretty. This may have had a little bit of aphid damage looking at it actually, but it'll be fine. So just so you know where we are, we're going to pop down there in a minute to see that rose, which is one of my favourites. That's Pride and Prejudice. But I'm going to continue walking along here and we're going to go and have a look at Chandos Beauty and then the roses that I've got on this pergola here. So again, over here, I've got 3 Chandos Beauty. Now these were affected really badly by black spot last year. They seem to be okay at the moment. The best thing to do with black spot is just to take the leaves off that are affected. So Chandos Beauty have got enormous blooms, really, really pretty, and it is the most incredible soft apricot colour. It's not peachy, it's much more apricot. And then of course the blooms fade to sort of creamy blush colour afterwards. So these blooms are considerably bigger, sort of the size of my hand, and they just open out, the petals unfurl backwards. Such an elegant rose. It really is gorgeous. Just behind me, so this is another new border that we've planted up this year. Finally, I had loads of dahlias in here last year, but I have got one of my favourite roses here. It looks tiny, and I'll show you a much better example at the front, but this one is called Princess Alexandra of Kent, and I've got it in the front garden, and I've got 2 of them in the front garden, and they look stunning. I'm going to show you those when we get round to the front garden. So if we carry on past the Chandos Beauty and head towards this pergola over here, on the left-hand side, this rose here is called Woollerton Old Hall, and this paler one over here, I can see all the petals have dropped off. This one's called Penny Lane, and then this bright red one here is called Robin Hood. And then this one, this side, is called Felicia. Now, I haven't deadheaded Felicia, so excuse all the blooms that are going over. But Felicia is another gorgeous shrub rose. This one is a sort of less formal and smaller pale pink variety. So it's looking really good with the Sweet Williams in the background. But I think Felicia's really pretty just because it is less formal, more open, and it's got slightly smaller flowers than, you know, the other sort of standout David Austin roses. Now, Woollerton Old Hall is, it's going to get huge. It will climb up to the top of the pergola. So Woollerton Old Hall is sort of a creamier apricot than Chandos Beauty. Chandos Beauty is more apricot. Woollerton Old Hall is creamy apricot. And again, this is a typical David Austin rose with these gorgeous ball-shaped blooms. They're absolutely stunning. And then as they fade, they get this sort of speckled pinky edge to them, which I think is quite sweet. Now, Penny Lane is a rose that I really wanted because I thought it would go really well with Woollerton Old Hall. So again, it's another sort of creamy apricot colour, but it's taken a little while to get going. And this is the first year I've had a decent number of flowers on it. So I've only got one proper bloom left, and that is this one down here. So all the others just need deadheading, but that is quite sweet. Now, I planted it with Robin Hood, which is this really vibrant, I mean, look at the colour on those. It's super vibrant, cerise colour, I suppose. And I've got Rose Campion in front of it, a Lychnis, that's kind of clashing. It's a bit too pink. So I'm not sure whether Robin Hood is going to stay there because it's not the exact colour that I wanted. So as we move along here, this is the Queen of Sweden border, and I love this area so much. So this has got 6 Queen of Sweden roses. You could make a nice hedge with Queen of Sweden because they're so upright. But they flowered whilst we were away. So I've deadheaded all the things that needed deadheading. I did that yesterday. So this is what's left. So the big flush happened whilst we weren't here, but it was glorious. I saw it happening just as we left. but it's still so gorgeous. And as there are so many more buds, it's still going to be beautiful. I think it's set off really nicely with the rose campion. There was a baptisia in front that has finished flowering. There are just a couple of flowers left. So this baptisia is called Pink Truffles, and it really is sort of kind of a lavendery pink colour. It's definitely not a bright pink at all. So this is Queen of Sweden. This is the Chandos Beauty. And then down here, I've got another lovely rose. Now this one is called Cream Abundance, and it's definitely quite creamy. Let's get closer. So I would describe this one as sort of custardy. If you're English, it's definitely got like the very centre of it is custard, maybe buttermilk would be another way to describe it. And then obviously paler outside petals. It hasn't got as many flowers at the moment. It's only just started flowering, so I haven't had to deadhead this at all. There are loads of buds on it, so it will be full of flowers in no time at all. But I think it's a really gentle rose, very pretty, just sort of the perfect creamy rose. So if we stand over here, these are the Queen of Sweden roses up here. This is Cream Abundance. This is Chandos Beauty, and the pergola's kind of behind here. This rose here, one of my all-time favourites, and I showed you when we were standing just up there. This one is called Pride and Prejudice, and I love it so much that we planted another one down here. It's hidden by the geranium at the moment because it's so small. I think Pride and Prejudice has got to be one of the most romantic roses. Just look at how many buds there are. I mean, it's absolutely covered in buds. I don't do anything special with this rose at all. In fact, it's kind of, I need to cut back the Viburnum opulus that's behind it because it's kind of crowding it out. But these roses are the perfect shade of cream. They're the perfect shape. The petals curl back really nicely. They're just, I don't know, it's just so romantic. Even the buds are so pretty, just frilly and cute. I love the buds. I love the rose. It's so, so pretty. Now, I wouldn't say it's got an unbelievable scent or anything like that, but I think if you're looking for something that's just eye-catchingly romantic and perfect, then definitely Pride and Prejudice is the flower to go for, the rose to go for. And then this is the other Pride and Prejudice down here. So it's pushing out a couple of blooms. I need to cut back the geranium, otherwise it's going to strangle it. So this is Woollerton Old Hall here, and Chandos Beauty is over on the side here. We're going to walk down this border here and then go along the bottom because there are loads of amazing roses at the bottom. As we're walking along the bottom here, the first rose we're coming to is called Lichfield Angel. Now, Lichfield Angel I have found to be quite a floppy rose, and so I have got an obelisk thing, a short obelisk underneath here, and I've got it tied in to this obelisk. I don't know if you can see the obelisk. So it is a gorgeous rose, but it does this flopping thing that's really quite annoying. But it's less annoying now because I've got it tied in. And I think by tying it in, I've actually been quite successful because what's happened this year is it's shot up this really strong branch with absolutely loads of buds at the top. And I've got some really nice blooms on it this year. So this is another creamy rose that's got a little bit of peachy apricot in the centre, and then as the blooms age they just fade to white. So it does this sort of droopy thing here. I don't know why it does that, but the roses are gorgeous. So some of them manage to hold themselves up and others don't, but it really is a very pretty rose. But it's not one of my favourites just simply because it just needs, it's not a climber, but it needs attention just like a climber would. And I find that a bit annoying. I wouldn't have planted it in the centre of the border if I'd thought that it was going to need quite so much help. And yes, I know my campanulas are falling over. Everything needs a bit of attention after a holiday. So this is the pergola over here with Woollerton Old Hall, and this is Lichfield Angel. Then I've got Lady Salisbury down here, which has had a couple of blooms, but that rose is not doing well. We're going to ignore it. And then we're going to move over here to another rose that's a little bit shrouded, unfortunately, and I need to do something about it. This one's called Tranquility, and it really is, this is the perfect sort of white rose. It's very, very pretty, loads and loads of blooms. And I've got it planted there with a little bit of splish splash larkspur and then absolutely loads of Nautia macedonica in the background, which I think complements it really nicely, but it's kind of being swamped by the oregano that I've got going on here. It's probably not doing any favours for this gorgeous cream rose. So now behind me on this bottom border here, honestly, there are some spectacular roses. Let's go and take a look at them, starting with this one here. So this rose here with the physocarpus in the background, this one is called Sweet Honey, and it always has loads and loads of blooms. I'm hoping it's going to get a little bit taller than that because it's only 2 foot tall, and I did have a problem with it last year, not getting very tall. So I've taken some plants out from around it. There was a Physostegia that was cramping its style, and probably the sweet peas last year. It's got the most gorgeous, pretty blooms. Just look at how many flowers are on the top of each stem. So most of the roses in the bottom borders have peachy apricot tones to them, and Sweet Honey is no exception. So these are sort of older blooms here. They've sort of got cream with speckles of pink on them, but they're very warm, pinky colours. But as the buds open out, they start off this sort of very apricot colour. I mean, that really, hang on, let me focus that. There we go. Really, really apricot. So the buds open out to apricot, and then they age to this sort of colour with, you know, just little pink speckles on the edges of the petals. And look at the colour of the buds. I mean, the buds are just bright orange. So this is Sweet Honey. And then on the end over here, this one is called Julia's Rose. Now, it's only got 3 blooms at the moment, but it will bloom more. But let me show you Julia's Rose. Julia's Rose kind of reminds me a little bit of Coco Loco in the colouring. So it's just got this sort of dusky colour. They're very, very open. And it's definitely sort of a dusky, apricot-y pink, more yellowy centres, orange buds. It's super pretty and much more open than a lot of other roses I've got in my garden. So great for pollinators and things like that. So this is the bottom border here. We can see Eustacia Vi in the background over there. That's Chandos Beauty. And then if we spin around, this poor rose here that's stuck in the middle of nowhere. I've never shown this before, but this rose is called Gertrude Jekyll, and it's absolutely gorgeous. But this was supposed to be a continuation of the grass border here. And so this was going to be in a border, but at the moment we've stopped the grass border there. And I think what we're going to do is create another border here that's going to encompass Gertrude Jekyll. Let me show you Gertrude Jekyll. Gertrude Jekyll is the pinkest of pinks, really bright pink, absolutely gorgeous. And, you know, it has been stuck in the ground here on its own for a little while, but it seems to be doing absolutely fine. I mean, it's surrounded by grass. It's not being given any special treatment. Roses are such tough plants. They'll just keep blooming however they can, wherever they can. I really like Gertrude Jekyll, but it hasn't been given the love and attention that it deserves. So now we're going to walk along the top of this border and come back round the bottom this way. So that's Gertrude Jekyll. This is Sweet Honey. And as we move along here, I have got 2 Coco Loco roses, and only one of them is in bud at the moment. But as we move along here, things get really exciting. So I've got a gorgeous rose here called Spicy Parfumer, and then the orangey one we can see in the background is Rosemary Harkness. Let's take a look at Coco Loco, which is the most astonishing rose, and such a shame that I don't have more in bloom to show you than this one bud. I'll put a picture up of what this rose looked like last year so you can see how gorgeous it is. So ignore this peony. This is Coco Loco, which is this really dusky purple colour. This one needs deadheading. It's just a gorgeous, I don't know, some people say it's cappuccino. I mean, as it ages, maybe, but at the moment, as it's starting out, it's just a dusty purple, and it really is so pretty. Absolutely loads of buds to come on those roses, but they're just not in bloom at the moment. However, Spicy Parfumer is going crazy. Look at the size of these rose flowers. This is enormous, absolutely enormous. It's huge, as is this one down here. Astonishing. So Spicy Parfuma is sort of a warm pinky apricot colour. I keep saying everything's pinky apricot. They're all shades of pinky apricot. This is more pink, but definitely the centre of the blooms starts off more, yeah, I'd say apricot more than peach. So right at the front of Spicy Parfuma, I've got a gorgeous geum here, which has got the same tones. And then this ranunculus is a butterfly ranunculus called Hera. This rose here is a bit of a disappointment this year. It's flopping all over the place. It's on top of my cosmos. This one is called Festive Jewel. I couldn't remember for a minute. It's normally way more upright than that, but I'm going to have to prop these stems up. I don't know why it's flopping this year. It's had loads and loads and loads of blooms. Like, it's had so many flowers, but it's a gorgeous rose. It's just done this floppy thing. I don't understand why it's doing that. Oh, so pretty. So Festive Jewel really does have such colourful blooms. It starts off with this sort of pinky colour, very warm pink coloured little flowers, and then as they age they fade, as with all roses I suppose. And then at the end here I've got an enormous rose. This one gets bigger and bigger every year. I'll put the stats up on the screen, but this is definitely, well, I mean, this bloom over here is 5 foot. So this one is called Souvenir, and very upright. And again, it's a little bit like Pride and Prejudice in that the shape of the blooms is exceptional. And they have this sort of paler outside to them, paler, creamy outside, and then just perfect, huge, upright, open blooms. I think they're just so perfect. Smells wonderful too. I think as a cut flower, this one would be exceptional, but you can probably see that there's pretty much only one rose on each stem, so I never cut this one. I just like it in the garden. It looks gorgeous. We're now at the bottom of these new borders, but this area was planted about 2 years ago, and this is a rose called Aloha, and I'm super excited about it. It's a climbing rose, but unfortunately it hasn't started climbing yet. I want it to climb up this brick arch here. The reason I bought Aloha was because we went on a fantastic holiday to Hawaii, and it just reminded me of that. But it's also a gorgeous rose. It's just been really slow about climbing. I'm guessing that it's just making roots, but look how pretty the roses are. And they're not small either, they're nice big roses. So this is definitely sort of rose coloured in the centre, fading to pink on the outside. It's definitely a warm pink, absolutely gorgeous. So this is Aloha here. Then we've got the massive rose arch up there that's got the Generous Gardener and Claire Austin. This is Eustacia Vi here. And then this is Souvenir. And we're going to walk along the bottom of this bottom border. When I say that roses are tough, I mean they're really, really tough. So there's a rose here in this bottom border that I planted a long time ago, a couple of years ago when we planted the apple tree, and I didn't look after it and it wasn't watered because we didn't have the irrigation system set up, and so it faded and it looked like it had died, but it's come back and I fully intend to look after it now that it's got irrigation to it. So it will get watered when it needs water, and I will feed it. But I've got one bloom on this rose and I can't believe that it's still alive. And it's a bit of a departure for me because it's one of these blooms that's sort of bicoloured. It's got a different centre to the outside, and I don't tend to have a lot of those types of roses. I'll probably get some more because I really like this one. Anyway, let's take a look at it. So here at the base of the apple tree is my one bloom, and this is called Blue Eyes. And it's so pretty. Now I know why I bought it, because it's just got this luscious deep purple centre fading to a very pale pink on the outside. I think it's so pretty, and I can't wait to have more flowers and a bigger rose bush. So as we turn around, that's Souvenir there. And then we've got 2 more obelisks on this bottom border here. And I planted a rose called Simple Life at the bottom. Now it has flowered its socks off in the week that we've been gone, but there is one bloom left. And these are gorgeous, open, single blooms of a very pretty sort of blush colour. They're absolutely gorgeous. I will deadhead this rose. I just haven't got round to deadheading all of them, and I wanted to get the rose tour done before everything stopped blooming. But look how gorgeous that rose is. They start off this sort of apricot colour. So ignore these are anemones. Well, don't ignore them, they're quite pretty. But this is the colour they start off, this sort of pinky apricot colour, very pale, and then they fade to the creamy white. So this is Festive Jewel over here that I showed you earlier. And then if we swing round here, look at these two roses. So right in the background of this rose is Spicy Parfuma, but this one here is called Rosemary Harkness, and this one here is called Susan Daniel, and they are blooming their socks off this year. So this is definitely the warmer side of the bed. I've got it underplanted with loads of purples. I've got penstemons, salvias, geraniums, and then these two gorgeous roses. But again, these have got gorgeous, enormous blooms. I mean, Rosemary Harkness has got bigger blooms this year than Susan Daniel. You can see that this is much more peachy than Susan Daniel, which is more sort of honeyed apricot tones. Rosemary Harkness smells incredible. So very deep coloured, absolutely stunning blooms. Quite open, with a lovely yellow centre, but really nice peachy tones when it first starts out. And then this is Susan Daniel, which has definitely got some of the peachy tones, but it spends more of its life as this sort of honey-coloured, apricot-y. It's not cream, it's much warmer than that. It's so pretty, and so many blooms. Okay, so we've moved round to the front garden now, and you can see the wall of blooms behind me on the front of the house. This is James Galway doing its thing. I think it's gorgeous. I could jump up and down, dance. I'm so happy with how they're looking this year. I'm going to give you a picture without me in it and let you see how gorgeous they are. So we have 3 James Galway roses here. This is a David Austin climbing rose. They are spectacular. They're in shade for the most of the day. I mean, they're in sun at the moment, but quite quickly they're going to get hit by shade, and they survive brilliantly. So they only get early morning sun. By about 11 o'clock, there is no sun at all. They'll be in full shade. But look at the blooms on these roses. Now, I've gone to quite a lot of trouble to train them. So if you train them more horizontally, they produce more blooms. I have deadheaded these since I've been back, so they're looking pretty good. There aren't quite so many dead petals. I couldn't get up to the top though, so Richard's going to have to do that at the weekend with a ladder. I'm not good with ladders, but I've deadheaded and tied in everything that I could at the bottom. But oh my goodness, they're gorgeous. These are some of the prettiest roses. Now, when I say that this is the year of aphids and roses, there's a perfect example here. Yesterday, when I was deadheading, I left this in place because I wanted you to see just how many aphids I have been dealing with. But it's also crawling with little ladybird larvae. So the ladybird larvae just munch on all the aphids, and they can eat absolutely thousands and thousands of aphids. So I've got thousands of aphids, and the ladybirds and ladybird larvae will just munch away at them. So they're doing their job. So I've left the aphids here because the ladybirds were munching on them yesterday. But you can see what aphids will do. If I can move, I don't know if I can move one of these. So aphids will just make the flowers look really spiky. Instead of being round, they'll kind of damage the flowers. But actually, the flower recovers. Roses are so robust. There's another ladybird larvae just there. But most of the roses have not been affected and are looking absolutely spectacular. So when we come out of our house, we're sort of greeted with just this wall of roses. I mean, I just think, I don't know whether it's coming across on film as beautiful as it is in real life. And then if we swing round over here to the front garden, there are even more roses all over here, which I'm going to show you. I really do feel like this is the year of the roses. I don't think they've ever looked this good. So the first rose I want to talk about is this one, Madame Alfred Carrier. I have struggled with this rose for years. This is why I think it's the year of the rose, because look, it's blooming. Normally I get 1 bloom, 2 blooms, maybe 3 blooms, but it's been blooming since before we went away, and it's still in bloom now, it's still in flower, and I've just got loads and loads of flowers. So it's finally doing what it's supposed to do. Now, Madame Alfred Carrier is supposed to cope really well with shade, and it's really tall, like it's incredibly vigorous. We cut this right back every year and it just produces these really, really long shoots. But this year I've got flowers, so I am over the moon that it's finally doing something wonderful. So over here I've got 3 little white pets. This is a gorgeous small white rose. It's absolutely covered in buds, so you may think that this is in full flower now. It's not, and this happens every year. This isn't just because this is the year of the rose. This is just how many buds there are on these roses. So they've got tiny little white flowers, but when they're covered it's just this mass of blooms. And then I've got an aruncus that the bumblebees are absolutely loving. So the aruncus is probably a little bit too creamy and it's leaning over the rose. So I'm probably going to move the aruncus because they're not positioned correctly. And then as we swing around here, so this is Princess Alexandra of Kent, and I love the colour. I love how big the blooms are. It's beautifully scented. Just look at these gorgeous, gorgeous flowers. So this is why I've planted another one in the back garden, because I was jealous of the front garden having this rose and I wanted some more in the back garden. We can see just behind it there's a penstemon garnet just there. That's sort of just looks really pretty with this rose. So this is one shrub here. They sort of start off with like a rust colour to them and then they fade to this lovely purpley pink bloom. They are so, so gorgeous. I have got another one over here. Now, for some reason, and I haven't figured out why yet, this one is more floppy. This one, really upright and robust. I must have pruned this incorrectly at the beginning or something, because a lot of the stems have fallen over and I'm going to have to prop it up. So I don't know why that one's doing that. It just hasn't got as strong a stem as this one here. And then right behind it, we've got 3 sceptred isle. So I would say that sceptred isle is in full flush at the moment. I did deadhead yesterday, but I can see that there are more to deadhead. I am just absolutely astonished by how many blooms I've got this year. I have no idea why the roses are doing so well when they were covered in aphids. Now, sceptred isle is another David Austin that's got these gorgeous ball-shaped blooms, full of petals. It smells absolutely wonderful. I really do love the scent. None of the roses in my garden are as strong smelling as Harlow Car though. So these are the sceptred isle. Just peeking over the top is the Princess Alexandra of Kent. Tiny white splash over there underneath the aruncus is Little White Pet. And this is Madame Alfred Carrier. And then as we swing round past the sacks of gravel, we've got all the James Galway. I love my front garden when it's rose season. Well, that's it. That's all the roses that are in flower in my garden at the moment. Now, I do have roses that aren't yet in flower or have completely overflowered. Overflowered, is that a thing? So I've got 2 Desdemona standard roses that have finished flowering. There's not a single bud on them, so I didn't show you those. And the Cheshire roses around the patio haven't started blooming yet, so I didn't show you those either. I can't think if there are any others that I skipped. I don't think so. So I think those are all the roses. Now, I do have quite a lot of David Austins, but I love them. There's such an English cottagey garden feel to them. I don't find them particularly bothersome. I don't mind that the petals drop and make confetti all over my lawn. That's absolutely fine. So I really love them, but I've also got loads of other roses that aren't David Austins, and I appreciate those just as much. In fact, sometimes I appreciate them more for their very sort of old, rosy kind of structure and the fragrance. Anyway, I haven't gone through a lot of the fragrances today. You can find that information online if you decide you like the look of a rose, because I think often the look of a rose is more important than the fragrance, and then you get to the fragrance afterwards as long as you like the look of the rose. So I haven't tried to describe the fragrances of very many of them unless I think they're spectacular, which is Harlow Car. That is my all-time favourite fragrance. And it really does waft around It's amazing. Anyway, I really hope you've enjoyed this rose tour and you found it fun and interesting and informative. Let me know if you've got any favourites that I've missed. I'd love to add more roses to my garden. We've definitely got room. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.